Yo, what's up, dudes? This is Captain Gimpy. This is usually a movie review channel, but a friend of mine, a really good friend of mine, asked me if I would do a video on a quote we both found that got shared on various pages. And it says something to the effect of, "Don't stare doesn't send a positive message. Instead, teach your kids today's disability etiquette. Don't look away, smile, and say hello." I actually have a few thoughts about this, but I'm going to try to make this brief. That should have been the etiquette all along, in my opinion. For those of you who don't know, I have cerebral palsy. It's a physical disability. I use a wheelchair. And growing up, I would often get parents, no matter what age I was, who would either tell their kids not to stare, don't touch my chair, don't come up to me, it's rude, all kinds of things, all without asking me if it was okay. And my opinion and my leaning has always been to use those circumstances as teachable moments as much as possible. So for me, if I see a kid who's curious about my wheelchair, I'll be like, "Oh, it's pretty cool, huh? You want to touch it?" And they'll grab the wheel and they'll move it around, and I'm like, "Oh," and they'll say something like, "Oh, you're lucky because your chair's like a robot." And I'll tell them, "Yeah, that's why my little brother, when he was as little as you are, used to call me his personal transformer." Um, I have always thought that the best way to educate people is through honest conversation, and you can't have an honest conversation if the only thing you're telling someone is don't stare. It's not polite. It might not be polite to stare in all circumstances, but it's less polite to just walk away without saying anything after you've stared at me for a good hard minute. um, I also had another friend who said, "Yeah, that works for kids. I definitely think you should take that approach, but for adults who just stare at you for a while and walk away and aren't willing to have a conversation, it's pretty much kind of a lost cause." I'm stubborn, and for that reason alone, I kind of disagree. Um, I found myself in a situation where someone I lived with did some kind of messed up things that were normal to him, but woefully inconvenient to me because, according to everyone else, he didn't know any better. Personally, I'm prone to the bias that if you're of a certain age and have reached a certain level of life experience, those types of excuses don't work. But after a while, I kind of started coming around to that other point of view where I'll even try to do that with adults. So, take that with a grain of salt though, because my personal life philosophy is hope for the best, prepare for the worst, and expect nothing. And that's because it personally gives me, someone with ADHD on the autism spectrum and with clinical depression, the mental flexibility to be able to cope with whatever happens. So those are my thoughts. If you guys are interested in this type of content, please let me know in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And if any of you are interested in what I think about anything else, feel free to ask any questions you might want to ask, and I'll do videos on those too. And I will leave a link to the book I wrote on the subject of disability down in the description. Thanks, and I'll see you guys at the movies. Bye.